So we have a new release of a Lupin movie. This is a television special, and as a huge Lupin fan going back decades, I've been working on collecting them since the late '90s, early 2000s. The first television special was released in 1989. There are 27 total movies. The last one was in 2019. And Discotech finally, after all these years, appears to be really trying to complete the entire series. There are now, after the release of 7 Days of Rhapsody, that leaves four more movies, and in late January, Sweet Lost Night is going to be released. So that would leave just three more movies. I own every single one that has had a Western release. Here are just some of the recent ones. It's not complete because I have them going back to DVD days, so I have tons more. But these are recent releases, but released in Japan, they go from 2004 to 2019. So there were actually two released in 2019. And just because there hasn't been anything in 4 years doesn't mean Lupin is at all dead. There's always stuff being worked on. I mean, this has got to be the greatest longevity for an anime series that I can think of, going back prior to 1989, because the television specials were just part of it. There were also theatrical releases, OVAs, all sorts of stuff, and there have been television series, I think 5, maybe more. But the television series are the only ones I haven't seen because I just didn't feel like devoting that much time to it. As to this one, 7 Days Rhapsody, this is one of the weakest, most forgettable I have seen ever. And I'll start. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, but don't get angry if I slightly slip up. But basically, all of the Lupin movies start with Lupin performing some kind of heist, dramatic heist, then a chase scene, and then into the opening credits and music. And this one was really silly. So what Lupin basically did was he bet a really crazy, insane bet. I think it was 1,000 to 1 bet on a horse race, and then he was in the race as a jockey and used some kind of dart weapon to take out nearly all the other racers that were ahead of him, and ended up winning $500 million. And he justified it by saying that he was taking it from the mafia, which apparently he bankrupted the mafia because of the sum of money. And they showed them giving this gigantic sack of cash at the racetrack to Jigen. And the whole thing is absurd. There is no way they were going to pay out when all of the jockeys were falling off their horses and passing out, and then this 1,000 to 1 racer wins. The jockey wins. It was ludicrous. Plus, okay, now he has $500 million, and they never mention it again. He's out there again trying to perform heists. Just live on the $500 million you just stole. So it just was silly. And the biggest problem. So the thing with the Lupin movies is there's a few things they need to get right. One of them is just the relationship between the four main characters, which is Lupin, Goemon, Jigen, and Fujiko. And that they get right. I really enjoyed the relationship between the four of them, and it's fun. In the final act, all four of them are working together. So that they got right. There's a lot of humor in there. It takes place in New York City. There is a lot of focus on cityscapes, and they look gorgeous. And the music is fantastic. They also go to Thailand. The problem with the movie is that the villains, because there are multiple villains, are extraordinarily forgettable. You need a good, interesting villain, and there are none. Even this guy here, he's more of a henchman. named Fire. I mean, he was a little bit interesting, but his finale was just very abrupt and silly. And so this is kind of the main villain here, just a mercenary. It was boring. The movie was an hour and 30 minutes, and I couldn't believe that it was only an hour and 30. And I watched it twice just to really make sure I got everything. It felt way longer than an hour and 30 minutes. Um, this girl here, she's 16 years old. The Japanese are a little bit different than Western releases. She was very sexualized, and it felt a little weird, a little creepy. The other problem is that the plan, the plot of the villain was massively overly complicated. So sometimes I'll watch a movie and I'm not completely paying attention to the plot. I'm just enjoying the action and everything. And then later on, it occurs to me that, the plot really doesn't make sense. This one, just watching it through the first time, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Why would the villains go to all of this effort when they didn't need to? What the villains have done is they've created a new kind of weapon. It's basically explosive diamonds. They're not real diamonds, but they're synthetic diamonds. And when they first introduced the diamond, it looks like, in this case, the diamond is about the size of a hand grenade and looks like it's got about the power of a hand grenade. And so I'm like, all right, well, who cares? Now, they do seem to be more powerful. They're particularly flammable. They will ignite areas, but okay, whatever. And the ultimate plan of what they want to do with it doesn't make any sense. It could have been achieved way easier. And also, I don't even think it would succeed what their plan was. It was just silly. And so I'm not going to remember this film. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. Watched it twice, like I said. But the second time maybe felt a little bit better. Also, Zenigata was fantastic in the movie. He's always good. Rarely is he not good. But that was the problem with the movie. It just felt like the villains were boring. The plot was silly. And they were just silly things like this apparently the largest uncut diamond in the world, called the Goddess Tear, was bought by the American president. So this movie came out in 2006, which meant the American president was George W. Bush. And later in the film, he's actually shown, and it's just a guy with a cowboy hat on. So that's clearly is intended to be George W. Bush. Well, how would George W. Bush, the president of the United States, afford the... He wasn't a poor guy, but he wasn't super wealthy. He wasn't a billionaire. So either they don't really understand the whole concept of the president of the United States, or they just wanted to do a joke about that. But because he's shown to be rather stupid. I don't know. It's just the whole movie was a fail for me, and I'm hoping Sweet Lost Night is better. Definitely, if you are ever planning, I know it would be a massive undertaking to watch all 27 movies in a row to compare them, but I will definitely say that the quality of the later films improves, particularly the animation, which becomes way better. I had no issues with the animation. Well, the animation sometimes wasn't that great, but I think maybe part of it is the character design of the villains. He's just boring. He looks like a low-level henchman. So anyway, that's Lupin the Third, 7 Days of Rhapsody. I've enjoyed a lot of these recent releases by Discotek over the last 5 to 7 years or so. This one, I can't really recommend it except for big Lupin fans who want to see them all, which I'm one of them. So I don't regret buying it, but very disappointing. So that's Lupin the Third, 7 Days of Rhapsody, put out by Discotek Media.